Well, hi, I'm Mark, and I'm talking to Mark on the brand new Guitar Weekend Warriors channel. I'll make lots of apologies for this because I'm very nervous because although he will hate me for saying this, I'm actually talking to one of my heroes.
Oh my God.
I've known Mark online for about 30 years, and I was so happy when Mark agreed to do this. And I think that you'll know why by the end of this. I won't call it an interview. It just the end of this chat. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Mr. Mark Day, who has his own YouTube channel called Mark
Day Guitar, I think. I don't even remember what it's called.
Isn't it Sam Hill's Back to Sam Hill band or something?
Yeah, maybe youtube.com // whatever it is, Sam Hill Band.
Yeah.
You can also find it.
To Mark Day Guitar for a while, and it went back. It went back. It is rather sad. I know more about your channel than you.
I'm so clueless.
Fanboy.
I'm just totally clueless.
So Mark's got about 21,500, but to me, I'll tell you one thing that's a superstar. I strongly suspect that Mark has a following of probably more important and high-end people than just about anybody else out there. And again, you'll probably understand that by the end of this interview. If you don't know Mark, you certainly know his friends. And by the end of this, hopefully we'll get enough distribution so everybody knows Mark. And at the end of this, we'll discuss something as well, which I think Mark's consented to us discussing, and we'll get on with it. So, hello, Mark Day. Where are you from, mate?
I'm from Cornwall, Ontario, Canada.
So are you a French speaker?
It's Glen Walter, Ontario, Canada. It's a little town along the St. Lawrence River in Canada. It's southern part of Canada, southeastern Canada.
Does that mean you're a French speaker, or?
I do not speak French. French is very fluently spoken around me.
Yeah,
but I'm pretty unilingual English.
Right. Well, most of the Canadians that I know are wrestlers, and most of them are French Canadians. So
well, I live an hour from Montreal, so it's Montreal is very close. Beautiful city.
Yeah.
And then I'm an hour from Ottawa, which is the capital of Canada.
Alert from exchange password required.
Oh.
No, I'll get rid of that after. Yeah. I think I know why that is actually. Anyway, so you're from Canada.
Canada, yeah.
You've not always lived in Canada, I don't think. You have moved around a little bit.
I moved around a little bit. In 2012, I moved to Los Angeles, California, to take a job with Dave Friedman, who's famous for building all kinds of pedal boards and racks and amplifiers for every star that you can think of, from Van Halen to Paul McCartney's band, to Foreigner, to anybody you can think of, Steve Stevens, Billy Duffy from The Cult, so many. Yeah. So many stars.
If we go back a little bit before that, when I first Mark, it was because I asked him a question about PRS single cuts, and there was a program on MTV at the time called Rock Stars, and your Sam Hill band, I think, were doing the touring version as the backup band for those guys.
Yeah, it wasn't much of a tour. There was a few dates, and we did that, and it was a lot of fun seeing these guys on TV and then actually playing with them. And it was a spur of the moment kind of thing. And we did a bunch of shows with them, and it was a blast. And it kind of helped our band locally, doing that kind of stuff. It kind of brought some more focus to us, and yeah, it was a lot of fun.
And at the time, I was into my rack processors, and I think that we both had the Digitech was it a GSP 2101 or something?
GSP 2101. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, and I was considering getting a single cut Les Paul, and you highly recommended them. And
Oh, I
then
love.
not long after, I seen you playing something completely different. I think that I switched on YouTube, and you were demoing a Sir, or just playing, but indirectly demoing a Sir Modern.
Yeah, Sir Modern, beautiful guitar.
Is it a modern? Is it? I always call it a modern. I don't.
Yeah, it's modern.
Yeah.
North America, it's modern.
Yeah. So I know I've said to you before, and actually I think I've said to John as well, who's also one of my friends, thinkers, we have a mutual like of taste for Fears and Go West to English bands. I think he used to be in a band that does that. I think you, for me, you were probably responsible for shifting more Sir Moderns and Sir Riot pedals than just about anybody else. From nobody being aware of them, certainly in the northwest of England where I live, all of a sudden everyone was going into the high-end shops and asking about them. And I put that largely down to you. I must admit, I was amazed at that time, where I was expecting a Mark Day tribute model to be released
I'm not that
any
important.
moment.
I'm not that important. No, you know, John's stuff was really cool. Is really cool. John's a lovely man, lovely
Yeah.
family. He actually offered me a job back in 2010 or 2011, and I went out and agreed to it, but the legalities, the work visas and stuff didn't work out. So,
Okay.
and then from there, I hooked up with.
Because you were running a guitar school at the time, I think.
Yeah.
We won't mention it just in case it's still running and there's some benefit.
No, it's
You know,
I'm not running it anymore, that's for sure. But yeah, it's still it's under a different name now and different owners, and they're doing well, and they're nice people, and
yeah,
God bless them, you know.
yeah.
Good luck with all that stuff. It's a hard chore to make that kind
So
of business.
what exactly were you doing for Dave Freeman when you moved out there, Mark? Because I mean that's and I'm assuming that he was able to pull some strings on the visa thing.
Yeah, him and his
What have you.
partner Rob Navarrete pulled some strings for me, got me a good immigration lawyer, and I was out there doing videos for them, and eventually I started working in the shop as well.
He's got a shop as well, yeah.
Yeah, well, he's got a shop in North Hollywood. I don't know if he still does or not, but he was originally building amps there and doing the pedal board stuff and the rack stuff, and it's a very interesting place. It was right across the street from a rehearsal place called Mates, which is world famous for all these famous rock stars. Whenever they begin their tours, they go and rehearse at Mates. So you often saw Slash out in the parking lot, or the guys from Kiss or Rush, or
Yeah.
countless people.
And I guess then a lot of those were clients that I know, because I've followed your career closely with a bucket and shovel, as we would say. You've actually done some pedal boards for some pretty famous guys, right? When you were working there.
Yeah, I mean, it was all under Dave's direction for sure, but I worked on some of my heroes pedal boards and racks, like
Oh, and
George
you can name a few names, and at least one of them's no longer with us, unfortunately. But because
Eddie Van Halen, we did his rigs, and Steve Stevens and Steve Lukather and George Lynch and Justin Derrico, and just all the guys that I used to idolize. All of a sudden, they're 5 feet away from me, and they're playing the guitar through a rig that I just helped wire up, and it was quite a humbling experience, and quite it was like a guitar player's dream, to meet all these people and watch them play and hang out with them, and
I remember you actually doing. I can't remember whether you wrote or you said something about meeting Eddie Van Halen and being sort of like totally starstruck sort of thing at the time. Yeah,
I mean,
a bit like me now with yourself, actually.
Thanks. You never knew what was going to happen when you went into work there. It was I walked in one morning and Dave says, "We got to go help Ed." And I go, "Ed who?" And he said, "Eddie Van Halen." I said, "What?" He says, "Yeah, we're going to go over and watch the rehearsal, and we got to do a few things to his rig." And anyways, we went across the street to Mates, and it was you know um, Eddie and Alex and Wolfgang jamming, playing the whole first record.
Right. So this was after the split with Michael Anthony and stuff, yeah?
Yeah, yeah. This was their first tour with David Lee Roth that they were doing, and man, Eddie was just on fire. Like he was just his playing was it was breathtaking. It was
Yeah.
breathtaking. And they run a really tight camp, and it's hard to get near anybody. But yeah, I met him. He shook my hand, and he said some jokes, and we spoke for a few minutes, and then he went and played, and it was one of the highlights of being down in California for sure, was meeting Eddie Van Halen. And,
Yeah, I can imagine it's funny because I'm quite a fan of Rick Beato's sort of channel in terms of some of the interviews that he does, and the one he did with Nuno Betancourt a couple of months ago, I think it was now, was absolutely brilliant because Nuno was talking about Eddie and Paul McCartney and stuff, and he's such a chilled out, relaxed, humble guy, a bit like yourself actually in many ways, because like you're incredibly modest considering the life experiences that you've had and the things that you've done, plus the fact
I'm
that you're a
nobody.
demon player as well. So
I'm nobody. Yeah, I met Nuno as well. He was playing with Rihanna, and I had to go and show him some stuff on an Axe Effects. So
right, I was going to ask you about that. We'll come back to the Axe Effects later, because what's your actual job title for working for Axe Effects now? Are you?
well, originally it was artist in residence,
Yeah,
but now I kind of I'm contracted because I'm out of the country. I originally I was working with Fractal in New Hampshire,
yeah.
and then I asked them if I could come back to Canada and work from home, and they agreed to that. And they've been absolutely wonderfully supportive, and I
Yeah.
love those guys. Amazing company, small company, just wonderful people. Cliff, Matt Bacone, all the engineers. They're all. I'm not going to name all the names, but
I remember when I got my Axe Effects 2, the first patch I went to had your name on it, which was amused me, but at the same time, because I know you're a guy who loves game.
yeah.
I think that you
Too
going
much
back
game.
in time, I think that you used to after you had, I can't remember whether you had the Aldridges on the Modern, and then you had Seymour Duncan Blackouts for a while, and
Yeah, I used to use EMGs, the 85s in the bridge position from about 1987 till probably 2008 or 2009. And then I tried the Seymour Duncan Blackouts, and I really liked those.
yeah.
And when I got to California, Dave wouldn't let me use. He didn't want me using active pickups anymore. He said, "No more active pickups. They're junk. You can't use those." Blah, 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 blah.
Really? Even
Yeah,
going through all those pedals?
yeah. But anyways, now I'm using for the last bunch of years I've been using Seymour Duncan distortions,
Right.
and I really
Are
like
they
those.
actually the same one as the original? Because that's quite an old
Yeah,
pickup.
it's an old pickup, very
Yeah.
old pickup. Yeah, like me, old.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, I think we share the same birth year. You've just got a picture in the attic somewhere.
Yeah,
So,
60.
Mark, what was the first gig that you ever did? Was it good? Was it bad? Or was it like me and swore that you'd never ever do it again?
I had such awful stage fright for the first probably 5 years I played. It was debilitating. It was so the first time I played, I couldn't wait for it to be over. But on the same token, I just loved music so much that I couldn't stay away. I hated being on stage, and oh my god, I hated it. Yeah, I survived and kept struggling through. And now I'm
I yeah, I swore I'd never do it again. I did a gig at a local club, and at the time I couldn't tune my own guitar. And it was before, the old chord tuners were around and stuff. So the keyboard player used to tune it for me, but he had stage fright and he was so drunk. I got up on stage and my guitar was completely out of tune. I think I found one string that was in tune, so I just played on that most of the time because there was nothing I could do about it. But it was an enjoyable experience. Presumably, you did it a few times, even through the stage fright. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. I played a lot. It was a time in my life where I was playing, at least 3 nights a week, sometimes 7 nights a week, and I did that for years and years. Mostly with the same bunch of guys.
You've been with the guys that you're with now, like since forever that I'm aware
Since I
of.
was 17 years old, and I'm 62 now. The drummer that I play with, Roy Nickel, he's actually the drummer for the current drummer, and he has been for the last 10 years or 11 years or so with April Wine.
Yeah, who I've seen. I actually, I was going to say earlier, I've seen Van Halen do their first tour in the UK by a complete freak. But one of my favourite bands that I went to see around that time was actually April Wine, when they were doing songs like Before the Dawn and stuff like that. Yeah, is it Brian Greenaway in the band?
Yeah, Brian Greenaway. He's still in the band.
Is he?
Yeah,
Even then I didn't know whether he was full time or because he seemed to like that he was in and out of it sort of thing at the time.
Yeah, I think he went back and forth, but he's in it now, and yeah, they still tour. They still tour, and I still play with Roy. We do a Journey tribute, and we do that a couple times a year, and it's fun.
You doing the Pat Benatar like as a double header sort of thing? Or...
Yeah, we were doing that too as well, and we decided that we really like the Journey stuff, and it suits us.
Roy sounds so much like him, doesn't he?
Oh, he sounds more like Steve Perry than Steve Perry sometimes. It's scary.
Well, I think Steve Perry these days, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Roy's the most talented musician I've ever met in my life. He used to show me the guitar solos. Like, he's a drummer, but he would say, "Okay, we're gonna try this song. We're gonna do this Rush song, and here's the guitar solo. I'll show you how to play it." He would show me how to play it, and yeah. And I'm still,
again, the fact that you're so modest shows up. My ego would never have been able to handle that.
oh my God.
I was one of those people that used to think to myself, wow, anything that anybody else does, I can do something just as well. Nobody would ever be able to tab one of the solos that I do. These days, I realize nobody would ever want to.
Yeah, I look over at the two guys in my band, and I say, why do they even let me in the same room as this crew? Like, they're just amazing musicians. I'm just like,
yeah, well, seriously, that's underplaying your own talent as well. You're a phenomenal player, and just about anybody that's seen your channel really knows that. To be honest with you, if people don't tell you that, then they're lying, because you are. So it's. Have you got any funny stories from the road, Mark, that you'd like to divulge?
Funny stories from the road.
I'm seeing a guy tomorrow night that I met on the way to playing in Germany, and I think that I will probably end up editing about 50 minutes to have a 1 hour discussion with him, because most of his stories will be too outrageous. But
I'd have to say, all I remember is that 95% of the time we were all laughing and crying. Everything was just so funny. The things that we would do is just, oh my God. I funny stories off the top of my head. Now that I'm thinking about it, I can't really.
So, well, if one occurs, we can go back to it.
Yeah.
Favorite players, Mark, because I've seen you do the Dokken stuff, obviously the Eddie and the Neil Schon stuff, or Schon. I'm not quite sure how you pronounce it. Who are your favorite guys? I hate to say the word influencers, but
my favorite guys. I mean, probably my biggest influence is a Canadian guitar player named John Albany. He was the guitar player for Lee Aaron. I don't know if you've ever heard of her.
The very
The
very
metal queen. She was the
yeah,
metal queen.
yeah, she was an extremely good-looking chick. I remember
Yeah,
her.
yeah, very, very nice looking
Sounds, yeah.
and great singer and great stage presence. And John was he had this thing with sound. It was just the first time I saw him live, he had one of these racks that had a Furman PQ3 in it,
Yeah.
and a couple of analog Ibanez analog delays, 8202s, I think they were. And he got this massive tone through his Marshall heads from using that PQ3 as the gain stage. He ran the Marshall
The old trick,
clean,
yeah, overdriving the
and,
Marshall import.
yeah, and he had that tone way before Stryper and all these other bands were out, and it was just, it just pounded you in the chest. It was just, and I had to have that tone. I had to. So he was kind enough to bring me up on stage one night and show me what he had. And the next day I was gone to Montreal and I bought everything that he had in his rack. I took out my credit cards and I just bought everything that he had in his rack. And it took me 6 months to wire it all together and try and finally get the same tone that he had. Like not his fingers. His fingers were phenomenal.
I was just going to say, do you subscribe to the fact that you can get somebody's tone with gear? I know that you're in the business of getting people's tone with gear, but you know, I always remember the Steve Lukather story where he snuck in and picked up Eddie's rig and said that he couldn't believe he sounded just like himself.
Yeah, those guys, they play one note and it's them, and,
Yeah.
and I'm all about. That's where the magic is, right here, the fingers.
Yeah,
that's where the magic is. But you know, when you have good gear, it sure makes it fun, and it makes it it inspires you to become a better guitar player when you have a better sound.
I always say to people, you know, like good guitars you can get at relatively well priced now, but it's how it makes you feel when you're playing it. It's not necessarily anything else other than that. How do I feel? Do I feel great? And if you feel great, you're going to give your best and you're going to do your best work.
Absolutely, absolutely. But yes, I'm a big subscriber to finger tone.
So
you know, you listen to George Lynch. He plays one note, and it's George Lynch. You hear Steve Lukather play a run, and you know it's Lukather. You know,
I think
vibrato.
he's probably of that era. He's probably the most identifiable one for me, and he's certainly my favorite guitarist from that time. I know that he played on everybody's kite when he was doing most of it, but you know,
he played on everybody's records, even when it wasn't written on the back of the record that Lukather was a guitar player. He was there. He played it. He was on everything. He was on everything.
Yeah. He and again, he's another really funny guy on that Beato interview. He was he was so chilled out and laid back on that. So guitar wise, Matt, what are you using? Obviously you've got a Les Paul in your.
It's my Les Paul. There? Yeah. It's a Gibson Les Paul Access. Modern, it's got just like the Sir Modern.
The drop D as well, is it?
What's that?
Got a drop D as well, does it?
I do. Yeah. There's a drop D, and also there's a tremolo.
Okay.
All that's, you know, I did that. Much to everybody should be, what are you doing touching a Gibson Les Paul? I don't care. I like toys. I like little things. You know, I've got you know a tuner on the pickup ring there. If I can find
no way, really.
So
fantastic.
It's awesome. And I've also got a sustainer in this thing. You'd never know it, but there's a sustainer in it.
All right.
I just activate it by that. And it's by a company, an Asian company. It's a guy named Veyz, Veyz.
Yeah, I've seen them advertised. Yeah.
Yeah, he's on Facebook a lot, and he asked. Yeah, he sent me a message, and I said, "You interested in this kind of stuff?" And he said, "Yeah." And I didn't know him from Adam, and I thought, "Oh, I'm going to lose a couple $100 here." because I'm going to give it a try. You know, he
Yeah.
had a bunch of people that said they actually bought it and he came through for them. So I ordered one and I said make it in gold and make it look
A
like a
bit of
regular
bling.
humbucker. And he said like literally 2 weeks later it was in my mailbox and all the way from overseas. And I thought, wow. And I installed it and it works absolutely great. It's amazing. Yeah. So really, really cool stuff.
It's funny. I got into somebody that we both know. I had a discussion with him that, and it was actually on Facebook. And let's just say that I asked him a question that perhaps I shouldn't have done, but this individual went off. We were talking about sustainers at the time, and I said, you know, and my question was, if Neil Schon said that he wanted to have, you know, one of yours as a signature, but he wanted a sustainer in it, what would you say? And there was then about a 10-minute diatribe, you know, about what he would say back to him in response and what have you. And I thought to myself, oh, I hope he doesn't regret saying that. And I went back to it the following day and he deleted the whole conversation. I'll let you. I'll tell you who it was, but I think you can probably guess.
I could probably
Offline,
guess.
I'll tell you.
Yeah, I love little toys like that. It's just you know, I like modifying guitars. I've never.
Can you do it? Can you do like a journey tribute without a sustainer, really, and do it authentically well, like you do?
Actually, I don't use the sustainer very often, but when I do, I just love it. It's a lot of fun, but I have so much gain, I don't need a sustainer.
I like the Digitech Freakout pedal as well. I've used that for.
Yeah, I've tried that. This is better.
Yeah,
This is,
I'm sure it is, but
yeah,
I wouldn't have to butcher a guitar or anything to do it.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
I'm really funny about guitars. I like, you know, if I get a scratch on one, it's defaced. I feel, you know, really bad about it.
I can't wait
I'll
to.
do the quick plug now. I'm not sure you can say, but I've just taken over the distribution for Shiji guitars in the UK.
I looked at some YouTube videos on that today, and they look like really nice guitars.
They are. To be honest, I started out as a fan of them after seeing Daryl Braun video a couple of years ago, and I bought one, and then I bought another, and then another, and I've become friends because of the Chinese connection with the guys, and you know, as having a day job of a supply chain consultant, I deal with China and importations and all that sort of stuff all the time. And I've never had it, other than being a professional musician, I've never worked in the industry. So I thought it was a good opportunity to dip my toes, and they were really keen for that to happen. So yeah, I think there's good opportunities there because the guitars are great. And, you know, I mean, I've heard some people call them the Chinese Sir, which I'm sure would upset John no end, because they're about a third of the price, you know, for the top of the range one. So, you know, the good value. Anyway, that's the plug. That's the plug for Shiji guitars. And if ever you fancy doing a review on one, I'll get that sorted for you. So
Cool.
yeah. So okay, we all know now that you're Mr. Axe Effects because you are the guy with does the sounds and everything else. What's your favorite standalone pedal, though, Mark?
Favorite standalone pedal? Huh. You know what? When I was a straight into Marshall guy. The only thing I ever put in front of a Marshall was a MXR 10-band blue graphic equalizer.
To overdrive the input on it, or was it? Yeah. I found that out years ago by accident. My effects pedal broke down, and I had a WEM reverb, and I wanted a bit of reverb for the amp, so I put it on, and I turned it on full blast, and I went, "Oh, what's that?" You know, because it just drove the input, and it was like a fantastic sound, you know.
Yeah, my favorite standalone pedal is an Axe Effects. It's the best
Well,
standalone pedal in the world.
I'm gonna make a big admission now, because you're obviously a lot brighter than me, because I bought an Axe FX 2, and I just couldn't get to grips with all the menus and everything. I remember dropping you a message and said, you said, you'll get the hang of it, but I went away from racks a while back, but I'd love an Axe FX 3. Now I've got the time to actually sort of like study one. And well, have you done anything with the guys with Def Leppard at all? Because they're big users, aren't they, of the Axe FX?
I've gone to a couple of their shows and stuff, and I know their guitar techs and things like that. And there's other guys in Fractal that work hand in hand with them, and I see the residuals and stuff. The the banter back and forth, and it is pretty cool. And yeah, but I've not worked with them directly.
Right.
And they've been kind enough to let me come to a couple of their shows in Canada.
Yeah, I think one of the many times I envied you was when I think you posted that you'd just gone to see Pink, and you got backstage with Justin Dorico, who's like a phenomenal player, and
and he's using Axe FX now.
Yeah.
He's the most amazing player. Oh my God, he's just
there's nothing
so
that
good.
Doesn't seem to be anything that he can't do.
No, and he's such a nice guy. He's such a sweetheart. He's the kindest guy you'd ever meet. We hung out quite a bit when I was in North Hollywood, and now I'm back in Canada, so we're quite far away. But we've had some FaceTime discussions and stuff. He's a super, super, super guy. Busy.
He is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He does the what's that show? The TV show, The Voice.
Oh, does he do that as well?
He does all the guitar stuff on The Voice. Like he'd come see us at Friedman's, and he'd say, I got 30 or 70 songs to learn this weekend. I'm like, how do you do that? I can't remember 5.
Yeah, I'm a huge Pink fan. What, on the subject of which, I've played with a lot of female singers during my time, sort of like as a pro and a semi-pro musician, and Pink is one of the artists that cover that I really, really enjoy playing her stuff, even though there's not lots of solos on it. I'm trying to remember the specific one, but it's one that sounds like there's a key change at the end, but there isn't. It's just like it's just the way that the song's structured. I'll remember it in a minute, but I remember trying to get the fingering for it off Justin Dorico off a David Letterman video, and I couldn't work out what he was doing.
He plays a lot of adult chords. big grown-up people chords.
Yeah, it's
not power chords.
So what's there for Axe? I mean, with obviously, you work for Cliff and Fractal and stuff. What's the future for Axe FX, Mark? How do you think it can get any better than it is? I mean,
he's so smart and so focused. He's always going to do innovative things. He's that type of mind. So it's always going to evolve, and it's always going to get better, and that's great for guitar players. I mean, I remember when I was in my 30s, and I had this big 20 space rack that was worth like $30,000 Canadian.
Yeah.
And 412
refrigerator things.
Yeah, Bradshaw switching system, and
yeah,
a $3,000 chorus, a $3,000 chorus pedal called an Eventide H3000 SE.
Yeah, another one. Yeah.
I use that as a chorus pedal. Stupid as that. But anyways, to get that type of sound, it cost you $30,000 at least.
Yeah.
And now you can get an Axe FX that has all that and a million times more tones, and it's just, guitar players are really, really lucky now to have this kind of technology at their fingertips for the price that that it sells for. It's just
It's crazy. I mean, the Axe effects in North America are a lot cheaper than they are in Europe.
yes.
I admit I actually got mine off a guy who bought them professionally in a Filipino guy in the States,
Okay.
and then shipped them over to Europe, so I didn't go through the distributor. But I think even guitars now. I mean, what was the first guitar that you had, Mark? Can you remember?
The first guitar I ever had was well, it wasn't mine. It was borrowed. It was a Brentwood. We had like a department store in Canada called Woolco. It was like a
Right.
Woolworths kind of thing. And they had these horrible guitars. It was a semi-acoustic Brentwood, and the strings were like that high off the fretboard. It was impossible to play. And then
We
my
had,
first,
I think we had one. It was Woolworths, and was it called a Winfield or something at my school, and we had that with a Vox AC30 head and combo, one of the
oh,
old
wow.
ones. That people got a shock off, so it was never plugged in again.
I think the first guitar that I ever owned that I worked all summer. I went down to the local music store and I bought it was an old Les Paul copy by Hofner. Like the Beatles bass, but they made a Les Paul.
Yes, yeah.
That was my first guitar, and then I had that for probably about a year, and I bought a Fender Strat.
Really, I actually bought I had a guitar that my mum got me out of a catalogue, and then my first decent guitar was a Shaftesbury Les Paul copy
Right.
that I learned to play on. But I never ever liked Strats, which is amazing because basically a Strat with a humbucker in the back is all that I've played for years. Now
Yeah.
I love the scale length of the Gibsons because I've only got like relatively short
Yeah,
fingers. Yeah.
feel your pain.
Yeah, it's like you see pictures of Jimi Hendrix, and he's like spanning the fretboard with just from this joint and stuff, and you think, oh, what's the other Paul Gilbert? He's another
Yeah,
one that seems to have like fingers longer than bananas and stuff.
yeah.
They're blessed.
My fingers are like little thimbles. They're so short.
You do well though because you've got such a good variety are you self-taught, Mark, or did you have lessons or?
No, I'm self-taught. Doesn't it show?
No, it doesn't. No. I mean,
Yeah, self-taught.
I was going to say you're famous, and then I can just imagine your face when I say that for playing like cover versions of like Journey and
I play them all wrong. I just play them with conviction. They're all wrong.
Yeah, but you do it so well, and the interesting thing is I've seen you cover the same ones like a couple of years later as you've got more comfortable doing them. Certainly
Yeah.
with Eruption and things like that. And I'm thinking, I thought it was great the first time. Where's he doing this for? But again, it's that old "how do I feel when I'm doing it" thing, right?
Yeah.
I'm more
Well,
comfortable doing
it's also I look back at the old stuff and I go, oh, that sucks. I gotta fix that. Because I'm trying to evolve all the time, and now
None of it did. I remember when you had that Moderna, the Riot pedal, and it was a CA 100 amp that you used at the time.
yeah, CAA, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was like the godlike amp everybody wanted. I think at that particular
Yeah,
time.
at that time, yeah.
Yeah, and I always remember you come out with a classic line when you went, "Oh, I've got this Sir Riot pedal, and it sounds like, well, it sounds a lot like my CE one." I see 100. And I think that was the thing that actually sold it to everybody because everyone else was going out and paying thousands, like for that amp. And like you said, this pedal sounds just like it, It was it did make me laugh at the time, but you were right, And then, a few years later, Joyo brought out the US Dream, which was like a really good clone of it. Joyo is probably not a brand that you're that familiar with. But again,
I've seen it, but yeah, I was never really a pedal guy ever.
it shocks me, honestly. I mean, I did the racks and then I went to the pedals, but you went straight for the big boy stuff, really, didn't you?
Yeah, I was addicted to it. I was just psychopathic about it. I just fell in love with all these great big racks and the Bradshaw stuff.
I'm still in love with big racks now, but that's a different story.
Uh, aren't we all?
Yeah.
Yeah, that stuff will get you in trouble though.
Yes, it has. Yeah. So I'm not going to bother you for much longer, Mark. But the people that know you would know that you've not been particularly well, yeah, for a while, and you've had a problem. I did clear this with you before we
Been
started.
psycho for a long time.
No,
Yeah.
like always, that's just wives and girlfriends. We all have that. But Lottie looks very, very nice, by the way.
Laurie's lovely. She's a wonderful, wonderful girl.
Yeah, and
And
by
she's a
the way,
nurse, which she's a nurse, so that comes in really handy.
and by the way, check out Mark's Facebook page as well if you're allowed on there, because he does some really, really awesome wildlife photography. I always look forward to seeing that. The other day we had the conversation about the bald eagle, and I thought he's joking, and there's a picture of a bald eagle the following,
Yeah.
in the afternoon or something.
I do a lot of that. I mean, as you were referring to a minute ago, the health issue is obviously Parkinson's. I was diagnosed with Parkinson's in late 2016, and it's a progressive kind of thing. It gets worse as you age, and
Yeah,
it's pretty much under control for the last couple of years, but something's gone a little awry in the last couple of months. That
it's the patches is the best way of dealing with it at the moment, right?
what?
The patches, wearing there's a patch.
Yeah, I've got. I take 2 different medications. I take a pill which is levocarb, which is kind of the old standard for people with Parkinson's. It's dopamine.
Right.
It feeds your brain dopamine, and what the patch does is it's a dopamine agonist, which helps that dopamine get absorbed better.
Yeah.
And that patch made a huge difference in the way I felt, and positively.
Yeah, I remember you trying it at the time, actually, and you saying to me, like, in the little conversations that we have, you never forget my birthday. Every year I always get a message off you. It's probably because it pops up on Facebook, but there
That's
you go.
exactly right. I'm not magic. My short-term memory has gone to really short-term memory.
The Parkinson's thing, is it just the Michael J. Fox Foundation thing that people should subscribe to?
Yeah, that's an excellent community, and they do amazing work, and they're always having breakthroughs, and hopefully someday there'll be there goes Rascal, the dog. You can just walk by.
Yeah,
We have a zoo here. We have a dog, 2 cats, and a rabbit. We just got this rabbit. It was out in our front yard, and it was really sick. And anyways, Lori took it in, and it had these horrible bot fly larvae inside it.
Oh my goodness!
Like literally the size of the end of your finger inside the rabbit. There was 6 of them. Anyway, she got them out and did her nurse's thing in wound care, and now this rabbit is thriving and happy and taking over our house.
We have my son is obsessed with dinosaurs, reptiles, snakes, spiders to a degree, but above everything else, actually. I mean, like, so much so that it's actually a problem that he's so obsessed with it. But we've got a pet by accident. We've got a mouse in the house that we can't bloody find it. I've got 10 mouse traps down, and I cannot find. I've seen it. He's stuck his head round the door at me one time, but we can't find where it lives or where.
What are you using? What are you using in the trap to attract them?
Peanut. Originally, they put like a plum thing, but I've been putting peanut butter in it.
Peanut butter's the trick, yeah.
Yeah, and he's actually set 2 of the traps off, and it's managed to escape unscathed.
Are you using electronic or old-fashioned?
No, it's an old-fashioned spring thing. It's an Amazon special.
Try the electronic, the one with the batteries.
Right.
It works really well.
My wife, it freaks my wife out. It's freaked me out one time because I was actually in the kitchen making a coffee, carrying it across, and it decided to sprint down the kitchen and through my legs to the back of the washing machine, and it
like a cartoon.
Yeah. It felt just like a cartoon at the time. But Mark, it's been a pleasure. I'm going to go and watch a little bit of the wrestling, even though I could talk to you all night, because I have been a fanboy for a long time. And
I appreciate it. Like I said, I am nobody. I am nobody.
yeah. But you know, it's you're somebody who's sort of like in inverted commas career that I follow because I've always admired you playing. And you've always been very, very polite, even when I used to ask you really dumb questions. I still ask you dumb questions now.
No, there's no such thing as a dumb question. There's no such thing as a dumb question.
But you were incredibly forgiving on all the forums for everything for a long, long time. You'd put patches up for people on Digitech stuff and everything. You were like the humanitarian gift to effects.
I love sharing. I think if a human finds something that's really cool, you should give it to somebody else. Give it to some. Here, take. You should try this too. It's wonderful. Let me leave you with a tip for the guys with pickup squealing problems, like especially that low end rumble when you got your amp up too loud and it starts. You get that low. Take some hobbyist hot glue and glue the sides of your pickup to the pickup ring, and it'll stop that vibration.
Right, so I suppose it's like super waxing, is it? I guess.
Oh, it's way better than that. Because what's happening if you actually stand in front of like a really loud amp and you look at your pickup and you start to get that over bottom end feedback, you'll see your pickup cover moving, vibrating very quickly.
Wow.
And if you anchor that to the pickup ring with some hot glue, it'll stop that.
Just before we go, you actually don't use an amp on stage anymore, do you?
Nope. In years.
So one thing I was going to ask you, but I missed it off my bloody list, was, do you think valve amps are dead? I'm of the opinion now that they probably are.
Yep.
I can't see the point in. I used to have my favorite amp of all time was a Mark IV Boogie with the EV in it that I had. I loved it, but apart from the weight and everything, these days I just don't see it at all.
Things are changing. Things are changing. You know, we don't.
And you're behind it.
Oh, I love it. I love the change. I love it. It's exciting. It's like, you know, when I go on stage now and I've got these things in my head.
Yeah.
And this is all I have on stage. This little rack which has my guitar wireless and in-ear wireless and my Axe effects and a Furman power conditioner. And I plug in to these things in my ears and I play a chord and it's the best sound I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
And it's in stereo and my band is in stereo in my ears. We have our own monitor mix. I can put whatever I want in my mix and everybody on stage has an iPad and we can put, you know, if Don wants more guitar or less guitar, he has that power to do that to his mix.
Yeah.
And man, it's so much fun because it sounds exactly the same every venue. It's perfect and it sounds incredible. And I would never go back to a tube amp in a million years. I'd never carry around that big crap ever again. It's not, and the stage volume is non-existent. There's no stage volume, which makes sound guys so happy.
Yeah.
I mean,
the last valve amp I had was apart from using the Joyo things, little band sounds, which are brilliant, was an Engel Screamer combo, which I dearly loved. But just getting it in and out of the car in the flight case and everything. Now it's just a matter of pick it up, take it into the gig, and it's there. I've not got the in-ear monitors or anything, but I use the FR thing.
Okay.
With the processor, and I use a little Black Star combo for most things these days because it, you know, but I still love my pedals. I'm still because I'm a neathral. I still like I still like having a couple of pedals on the floor, but I keep thinking, I want an Axe FX 3. You know,
an FM3 or an FM9. Oh man.
I remember you saying to me that there's a guy that plays like with Cutting Crew and stuff that, and I know that he's just like using one of those. And I remember you saying to me, a lot of guys are using like them FM3s and 9s. That's it, you know.
That's
But
the way it
it's not
is.
very rock and roll, you know. I remember one of the thrills of going to see Van Halen
There's
was
a wall of Marshall
drop kicking the
cabinets.
wall of Marshalls, literally trying to knock it over with the roadies at the back, trying to push it back up again.
And when we didn't realize that they were all empty anyways.
Yeah, I just thought he was super strong at the time and I bought into it.
I never forget seeing Dawkins in 1986, and George Lynch had a wall of Marshalls behind him, and I stayed till the end, and the road crew went back, and one guy picked up 4 cabinets at one time. It wasn't even a full cabinet. It was just a face like about that wide of wood, and it was light as a feather. And he just went and picked 4 cabinets up. They were all nailed together or screwed together. And I thought, wow, that's not even real. I was so disappointed. But
There's a really good player called Mike Kerr. I don't know whether you've heard of Mike. He's a Joyo user, but he's been tour manager for Striper, a band you mentioned earlier on, and occasionally gets up in gigs with them. And yeah, I don't know if you've seen them, but there's a little 20-watt Joyo band amps, and Mike plugs into one of those. They've all got their like Messer sort of like dual rectifiers and triple rectifiers on stage, a big wall of them, or so it would seem. Mike's plugged into this 20-watt Joyo thing going through the cab. And here's the irony. On the video clips that I've seen where he's up there playing with them, you know, like live with the full audience, he sounds better than any of them. And it's not just because Mike's an awesome player, because he is. The sound is better.
Yeah.
You know, and these things are like $150. You know, it's just it's just an amp with nothing on it, but they sound great. You know, we've never had it so good, Mark, gear wise. You know, and
it's
the
amazing.
Fractal stuff is the pinnacle. You know, everyone can talk about the competition, and you know, the Quad Cortex was supposed to be the next big thing, but everything that I've heard from that particular unit against the Fractal one, it's nowhere. It's not in the same class. It's different. There's levels, and I think the Fractal one is the best. And I'm not just saying that because I'm speaking to the man behind it.
Fractal. Even if I wasn't working for Fractal, I would be using Fractal for sure, and I would hail them as the gold standard.
Yeah,
Gold standard
for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
On that note, I think we'll sign off. I'm going to go and watch the end of Monday Night Raw because it's on here the night after because of the timing. Mark,
Awesome.
and it's been an absolute pleasure for us to be able to speak to you at last. And for you,
Thanks for having an old shaky guy on.
Yeah, look, you know, like I say, I've been a bit of a fanboy of yours in many ways for such a long time, even though I'd never tell you that when we used to exchange messages on lots of things, you know, like not just the gear and stuff. And you know, I was so thrilled when you said you'd come on, and I'm even more thrilled now that we've done it. This channel will actually launch. I'll put 5 up on the first week, and then I'll give you a build up for about a week, advertising that you're going to be on and stuff, because I think you deserve that. And probably with the amount of followers that we'll have at that time, 20 people will see it.
There's Charlie. Charlie just walked in. Great timing, Charlie.
Hi, Charlie. But in years to come, I'm sure that'll be up there, and people will. You'll be like the Queen on the back of a stamp or something. You know,
I appreciate that, Mark. You're too kind. That's for sure. I had fun. Thank you for having me on.
No, absolutely. Thank you so much, Mark. It's been, to say that I was delighted that you did this, and is beyond comprehension. All I need for you to do now is a Shiji review at some point in the future.
Yeah, you'll have to set me up. I'd like that.
I will do. Yeah. Okay, Mark. Thank you very much.